Hi guys, it's Just from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my September TBR. Alright guys, so I'm actually filming this video pretty early. I typically film my TBR videos only a few days prior to the new month starting. However, I am about to go on a much needed vacation, and because of that, I'm trying to get a lot of videos filmed that I know I need to post. Now, August was admittedly one of the worst reading months of my entire life. I was in a terrible reading slump, and on top of that, I have a lot of jobs that I do not talk about on here, and one of them received two very, very big projects at the exact same time. So I have had literally no time to read. I'm hoping to have a lot of books read during vacation. That's kind of my goal. But anyway, because of that, I have a very ambitious September TBR. Now, September is also my birthday month. It is my favorite month out of the entire year. I'm a Libra. I fit pretty much all of the Libra qualities. And I love everything about my birthday month. I love my birthday. I'm actually going to be at Books, Gowns, and Crowns this year, the day I turn 35. Oh my god. But anyway, I have a bunch of books I really want to get to in September. Now, they are all fantasy romance or romantasy. Some of them are new releases. There's also a few indie books that I've had on my radar that I'm excited to pick up. And yeah, just a bunch of amazing reads. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about all the books I want to read in September. Alright guys, so as usual, starting off with my Patreon book club book. Now, I am not going to go into the explanation of my Patreon book club. I feel like I've been doing it all year. I'm sick of saying it, and I am sure you guys are sick of hearing me say it. So I'm pretty sure most of you know. You guys vote on the book, I add it to the Discord, I make an exclusive graphic, and then we have a live show at the end of the month. So I had 3 different fantasy romance books to choose from, and the clear winner was Empire of Flame and Thorns. Now, this is the first book in an epic fantasy romance series that I've been wanting to read. We are following this character who ends up having to try to survive these atonement trials. She's actually like a fae rebel and is trying, I'm assuming, to take down this like regime in secret. But anyway, she ends up having to go to the atonement trials, and when she gets there, she finds out that there's a certain dragon commander who has decided he is just gonna make her life miserable. But she is hoping that he doesn't discover that she's actually a fae rebel, because then not only will he try to make her life miserable, he will also probably try to kill her. And I'm assuming it will eventually be an enemies to lovers romance between them. And I've heard really good things. I know a lot of my friends have read this series and have really enjoyed it. Now, I am a little bit worried about the audiobook. No hate to this narrator, but there is a certain narrator that it seems that some of my patrons are not a huge fan of, and I totally get why. I really like her, and I think she is great and very talented, but sometimes her female protagonists can sound a little bit whiny, so I'm a little bit worried about that. But other than that, I am very excited to jump into this book. And moving in to my Patreon read-alongs. Now, my Patreon read-alongs are essentially the exact same as the Patreon book club, except instead of picking one fantasy romance book to read a month, we pick a series and we read one book a month until the series is complete. This is also open to all tiers, not just the Fae Enchanter tier and above, like the book club. Now, with that out of the way, we are starting a brand new read-along in September, and that is The City of Gods and Monsters. I believe the actual series title is House of Devils, but City of Gods and Monsters is the first book, and we will be starting that in September. Now, I've had that book on at least 2 or 3 TBRs, and I've been wanting to pick it up for quite some time. However, those books are so long, so I feel like this is going to be giving me the push to actually complete this series. Now, all I know about this is it is a dark, kind of urban romantasy series. We are following this character who's been living a quiet life in this kind of corrupted city, and she becomes the target of dark slayers, which I'm assuming are some kind of monster, but instead of taking her, they end up taking her friend in her place. So she decides she is going to try to get her friend back, and she enlists the help of a gang leader, I guess, to try to get her friends back from the Dark Slayers. And as she's doing this, I'm assuming there's going to be a romance between the two of them, and they're going to uncover all of these different mysteries about the city. And I've had a lot of friends read this series and really, really love it. Once again, those books are just so long. So that will be the new series we are starting in September. Then we will be continuing the Legacy series by Melissa K. Roehrich. We read Reign of Shadows and Endings in August. I don't know how it's possible, but I somehow enjoyed that book more on my reread than the first time I read it. And when I read it, I gave it 6 stars. I love this series. Oh god, like it's definitely up there with A Court of Thorns and Roses in like top 3 series of all time as far as Romantasy for me. If you are unfamiliar with the Reign of Shadows and Endings series, it is a dark fantasy romance series that kind of plays around with the captor-captive dynamic, so please check trigger warnings before going in. But I can't really get into the second book, but this first book is following this girl named Tessa. So Tessa lives in a world where the Fae are ruled over by the legacy being descended from gods. Tessa ends up being chosen to become the primal source to the heir of endings, meaning this heir will be able to place these tattoos upon her that will allow him to read her mind, feel her emotions, see where she is, and just control her. And really this entire series is about all of these people trying to control this woman who just wants to be seen. She just wants her own autonomy and freedom, and everybody is trying to use her for their own ends. And I love this series. It also tackles a lot of like mental health rep, like depression and things like that. It is just such an amazing series. So I cannot wait to continue with Storm of Secrets and Sorrows in September, the second book. And then last up, we will be reading Goldfinch, the conclusion to the Plated Prisoners series. Admittedly, I still have not read Gold at the time I'm filming this, and the live show is probably going to be in a week, so I need to read that book ASAP. However, I have read all of the other books and have really, really enjoyed them. If you're unfamiliar with the Plated Prisoners series, it is a very loose King Midas reimagining. We are following this girl named Auren who has been gold-touched by Midas, meaning she is gold, and Midas essentially keeps her in a cage in his kingdom and just likes to show her off. Now, Auren is subservient to Midas in every way possible. She has no autonomy. All she cares about is pleasing Midas and staying safe, and all of that changes when she is forced to leave her gilded cage, and it goes from there. The character development in this series, like I have said in so many past videos, is phenomenal. So I cannot wait to finally see how this series concludes. All right, so next up we have Warrior, Princess, Assassin by Brigid Kemmerer. Now, I talked about this book in my upcoming, I think it was like summer fantasy romance releases, and I said this was a young adult romantasy. I am used to Brigid Kemmerer writing young adult, so I just kind of assumed. I was very wrong. So this is actually Brigid Kemmerer's adult debut in Romantasy, and it is why I choose. So definitely adult. And I'm very, very intrigued because I've actually really enjoyed Brigid Kemmerer's other books. However, I haven't been reading a ton of YA lately, and I'm very interested to see what she's going to do with an adult Romantasy. Now in this, we are following 3 different characters. The first being a warrior king who is desperate for a alliance because I believe his kingdom is like burning down. So he is desperate for an alliance with Princess Jory. Now Princess Jory really needs to marry this warrior king. However, she doesn't want him to know that her magic is actually waning. So she's trying to keep it a secret because she also, for some reason, really needs this marriage. Now while this is going on, an assassin and the first love of Jory takes a contract to kill the both of them. So I'm assuming it's a romance between all 3 characters, and I am here for that. So I cannot wait to pick this up. I'm also so excited that this was Fairy Loot's book pick. I was not expecting them to pick this, and this book is absolutely gorgeous. And I will also show you the inside artwork. Unfortunately, this arrived like right after I finished filming my book haul, so I didn't get to show it in that. And that's the inside artwork. So pretty. And one of the first books I will be reading in September. All right, and next up we have Smoke and Scar. So every 25 years, the arcane crucible trials offer a chance at peace between the humans and the Fae. Unfortunately, very few survive. So we are following a Fae that has recently lost the love of her life in the last crucible trials. So she is obviously haunted and just does not want to do this. Then we are following a knight who absolutely detests the Fae, and for some reason these two end up being partnered together. So together they are going to have to team up to try to survive, and as they work together to overcome these obstacles, I'm assuming they might fall in love or something along those lines. Now, I have been seeing this book kind of popping up everywhere. First, I saw it with my friend April from Happily Ever April. She was reading this during her reading sprints or during her book club, and the way she described it, I was immediately interested. So I added it to my Patreon as like a potential book club book. Unfortunately, it was not the winner, but I still really want to pick it up. And apparently these Fae, I'm not positive of this, but this is what one of my friends said who has started the book. The Fae are a little bit different than the Fae we've been seeing recently. These Fae are definitely more like fairies. They actually have like the fairy wings and everything like that. So it seems like it's going to be really good. And another book I will be reading in September. And next up, I completely forgot that Eldritch by Keri, the sequel to Anathema, or Anathema, I always say that name wrong, is releasing in September. Now, thank you so much. One of you guys actually left me a comment asking if I was planning to read it when it released, and that completely jogged my memory, so thank you so much. But anyway, Anathema was one of my top reads of the year. It is a dark, gothic, just creepy romantasy, and I need book 2 ASAP. So I will also say I am so thankful that the release date for book 2 didn't get pushed back. It did get picked up by a trad publisher, which is awesome, but it seems like when that happens, the books seem to get delayed. Not the case with this series, and I'm so thankful. But if you did not read Anathema, we are following Maeve. And Maeve, when she was a child, was found outside this thing known as the Eating Woods. Now, the Eating Woods are these very scary woods that once you enter, you never return. So the patriarchal society in which Maeve was raised kind of uses it as a death sentence. So anyway, Maeve's sister ends up doing something that is seen as very bad, and she is sent to the Eating Woods, and of course, Maeve decides to follow. And when she does, she ends up in a completely different realm, and she meets an assassin known as the Scorpion, and it goes from there, and it is epic and awesome and haunting and just so good. So I know the second book, Eldritch, is going to be amazing. Apparently in that book, we are following Maeve and Zavander as they have to navigate the mortal world, all while this evil, malevolent power is starting to encroach on Zavander, and I cannot wait. So another book I will be reading in September. And next up, we have Silvercloak. So in a world where magic thrives on pleasure and pain, we are following Saffron. Now, Saffron, after the death of her parents, decides to infiltrate Silvercloak Academy in the hopes of becoming a detective. Now a detective, she goes undercover to try to dismantle the Blood Moon Gang, the gang that she believes is responsible for the death of her family. However, once she gets kind of engrossed in this gang, she starts to become very close to the Kingpin's son, whose fate might be tied to her own. So I talked about this book in my fantasy romance book haul that I recently posted. When I picked this book up, I thought it was fantasy with no romance. Apparently, this is classified as a romantasy, so I'm very interested to see how much of a romance is in this. I also said in that video that I had never read this author before. That was a lie. A lot of you commented and said that L.K. Steven is actually a pen name or another name for the author that wrote Our Infinite Fates, which unfortunately I did not enjoy. It's actually one of my least favorite books I've read this year. It's like on my list of books I will not recommend. So that being said, I'm a little bit nervous about picking this book up. The plot does sound awesome, and I've already agreed to buddy read this with a friend, and I'm very excited about that. So I will be reading this in September. I'm just a little bit more nervous than I was when I initially purchased this book. And this next book is somewhat of a new release, so Hemlock and Silver. and it is a Snow White reimagining. I feel like I see a ton of different like fairy tale reimaginings, mostly Beauty and the Beast, but never Snow White, so I'm very, very curious. But in this, we are following Anya, who is a healer, and she actually tests poisons by drinking them herself. So she ends up being summoned to the king's dying daughter, Snow, and she is tasked with finding a cure to save this girl. So now, along with a gruff guard and a very vain cat and her own determination, she is going to try to find a cure, which leads her to a magic mirror that apparently holds another realm inside of it, and she believes the cure can be found there. Now, this is by L.K Kingfisher, who I have read a few of their books in the past and have loved the writing, so I am super, super pumped to get to this one. And next up is In the Shadows. So once thought dead, Lilith is forced to rule in secret as the Queen of Umbra, bound to the evil king and slowly being consumed by his shadows. That is until one of the greatest enemies of Umbra, Theo, is captured by the king, and he discovers that she is reigning silently. So together they are going to forge a new fate and try to get her out of this predicament, and I'm assuming fall in love while all of that is happening. Now, I actually heard about this from Rainy over at Rainy Blue Reads. I will leave her channel link down in the description below. We read a lot of the same books, so if you like Myrex, you will probably love her channel, so definitely check her out. But I know this was one of her top reads when she read it, and I love a good dark romantasy, especially if it has forced proximity. So I cannot wait to read this in September. And last up, we have Alchemised by SenLinYu. So Helen, once an extremely powerful alchemist, is now the prisoner of corrupt necromancers with no memory of how she was captured. So she ends up being sent to the estate of the High Reeve in the hopes of her getting her memories back, because they could be the key to the war, her loss of power, and everything that is currently going on in this realm. Now, I am sure pretty much all of you know that Alchemised is actually the fanfic Manacled with all of the nods to a certain boy wizard, as well as the Handmaid's Tale removed, and it has been trad pubbed. I talked about this in my anticipated release video, so this is essentially going to be the exact same thing. I'm not going to touch on the controversy of fanfiction and all of that, but I will say I am a little bit nervous, having now read the plot synopsis for Alchemised, that it's gonna have a similar feel to Rose in Chains, in the fact that they didn't really change anything from the fan fiction. So I'm really hoping that there are some major differences. I'm not exactly sure why we left High Reeve as like the name, but I am kind of worried it is gonna be super, super similar to Manacled. Nothing against Manacled. Manacled is one of my favorite books of all time. However, I would hope that having it come out as TradPub, we would remove all of the kind of nods to the original IP, and you would not have had to have read the original IP to enjoy Alchemised. So I hope that happens. I am still unbelievably excited for this book to release. I actually plan on like taking the day off work and just binging this book. I also plan on vlogging. I might actually do reading sprints on my channel. I'm still not sure. But either way, I'm very excited for this book. I'm just a little bit nervous that the author might not have changed as much as I'm really, really hoping that they did. Alright guys, that is it for my September TBR. Please let me know down in the comments below if you are reading any of the books that I mentioned, or if you guys have any good fall romantasy recs for me. And I'd like to say a special thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Christy, Kat, Lada, Leslie, and Nerdy. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!